September 12th, 2026. The Anaheim Convention Center. Fans from around the world fill the halls for BlizzCon, 2 days of announcements, developer panels, playable demos, esports championships, cosplay, and the biggest reveals across Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, and Hearthstone. The event sold out. For everyone who couldn't be there, Blizzard's free official livestream carries the opening ceremony and major panels through their website, Twitch, and YouTube, with esports available on respective franchise channels. On September 13th, Eli Seraphim closes out the convention as the confirmed final act. This is BlizzCon at its most ambitious, but this convention almost didn't make it here. Cancelled years, corporate crises, and a backlash so brutal it became a meme nearly ended everything. How did a small gathering of Blizzard fans become one of gaming's most famous conventions, and what nearly destroyed it? To answer that, we have to rewind to before BlizzCon even existed. By the early 2000s, Blizzard Entertainment had fostered 3 distinct, highly dedicated communities. Players of Warcraft, Diablo, and StarCraft operated in separate spheres, each carrying its own gaming culture, competitive habits, and social groups. Strategy enthusiasts analysed build orders, action role-playing game fans hunted rare equipment, and tacticians commanded futuristic armies. The connective tissue holding these players together was Battle.net, an online platform launched in 1996. The service served as a matchmaking tool, but it also offered chat channels, clan support, and persistent profiles where players built reputations, organised matches, and formed rivalries. While these groups operated in their respective corners, the scale of this virtual community expanded with the 2004 launch of World of Warcraft. This virtual world transformed casual online encounters into permanent guild alliances and long-term social circles, bringing millions of new players into the fold. Instead of quick matchmaking sessions, players spent hours living inside a persistent online world together, forging friendships that spanned countries and time zones. Inside Blizzard's headquarters in Irvine, California, leaders like co-founder Mike Morhaime championed an approach that treated players as a community rather than a customer base. Meanwhile, creative director Chris Metzen became the recognizable voice and energetic presence behind the lore, shaping the fantasy worlds that millions lived in. At the time, gaming events were mostly competitive tournaments like the Blizzard Worldwide Invitational. These were sterile environments focused purely on high-level esports matches. But as the player base grew more interconnected, Blizzard faced an institutional question. Could an online community, built entirely through pixels, glowing monitors, and text chat, be brought together into a physical space? The demand for something larger, something that celebrated the shared culture of these distinct worlds under one roof, was quietly building. On October 28, 2005, the doors of the Anaheim Convention Center opened to a crowd that had previously only existed behind glowing monitors. For these early players, this was the physical manifestation of Azeroth, Sanctuary, and the Koprulu sector. Reports from the weekend indicate that approximately 4,000 people paid a reported ticket price of $120 to walk the halls, a figure and cost that represented a massive gamble for a single studio event. Inside, the massive scale of these virtual worlds collapsed into a physical space. Guildmates who had only known each other through text chat and voice servers met face-to-face on the convention floor, solidifying digital alliances into real-world friendships over shared meals and late-night strategy sessions. The gathering allowed players to stand feet away from the creators of their virtual homes. Instead of sterile corporate press conferences, the event offered developer panels where design decisions were debated openly and creators answered direct, sometimes difficult questions about class balance and upcoming lore. Hands-on participation became the centerpiece of the showroom floor, with long lines forming at demo stations featuring early unreleased builds of upcoming projects. Attendees also took the stage themselves, establishing the early traditions of cosplay and talent contests that allowed the community to display their own creativity. Nearby, the competitive spirit of Battle.net came alive on dedicated stages. Professional players faced off in intense StarCraft and Warcraft 3 matches, competing for $13,000 prize pools in front of highly partisan crowds. The peak of the weekend arrived during the opening ceremony. Blizzard took the stage to announce World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade, the reveal of the first expansion complete with a raised level cap, new playable races, and the shattered realm of Outland sent a shockwave of excitement through the audience. This announcement assured players that their adventures were only beginning, and that the world they inhabited would continue to grow. To close the weekend, punk rock legends The Offspring performed a high-energy set. The concert turned the gaming convention into a festival, showing that this gathering was meant to be a celebration of a shared lifestyle. The success of this weekend proved that the virtual connections forged online were real and durable. This initial event served as a working prototype for what a fan convention could be. When the doors closed on October 29th, the immense demand for another gathering made it clear that Blizzard had tapped into a powerful communal force, one that would soon require much more space than a single convention hall could provide. Following the first gathering, Blizzard chose not to hold a convention in 2006, a decision that tested the community's growing appetite. When BlizzCon returned to Anaheim in August 2007, the demand was undeniable. Ticket prices dropped to a reported $100, helping to attract approximately 13,000 attendees. By October 2008, that number climbed to around 15,000 fans, all paying the same $100 entry fee to walk the showroom floor. This rapid scaling required immediate physical expansion. The convention claimed larger halls inside the Anaheim Convention Center, filling the spaces with more elaborate stages, expanded developer panels, and highly competitive tournament areas. Esports gained a secure footing as intense matches for StarCraft and Warcraft 3 drew thousands of screaming spectators to dedicated arenas, turning competitive gaming into a premier spectacle. Cosplay transformed from a casual hobby into a structured, highly competitive art form, while players lined up for hours to test early builds of upcoming projects directly from the developers. For the thousands of players travelling from across the globe, the gathering had evolved past a simple weekend event into an annual pilgrimage. Walking into the convention centre meant stepping into a physical hub where digital guilds became real-world communities. The sheer velocity of this growth solidified the convention as an enduring cultural institution. The focal point of this annual gathering was a highly structured sequence designed to convert game announcements into shared cultural moments. At the centre of this system sat the opening ceremony, an event that followed a precise theatrical rhythm. It began in darkness. A cinematic trailer played on massive screens, triggering an immediate roar of applause from thousands of fans packed into the arena. Once the footage faded, lead developers walked onto the stage to explain the creative vision and design choices, which immediately opened the demo stations on the show floor. Within minutes, players went from watching a trailer to testing the game themselves before finishing the cycle by asking unscripted questions at afternoon panels. This format made crowd noise an active part of Blizzard's strategy. The collective roar of thousands of people reacting to a single frame of footage created an auditory feedback loop that could not be replicated in a standard press release. For the developers on stage, the environment required careful preparation. They had to move between tightly scripted presentations and live, unpredictable audience questions on the convention floor, where fans demanded immediate answers regarding class mechanics and software patches. As the convention grew, this collective energy stretched beyond the physical walls in Anaheim. The introduction of online broadcasts allowed remote viewers to experience the physical energy of the main stage from their homes, turning local press conferences into a global spectacle. Every announcement carried an immense burden of expectation, as the ceremony format established a standard where every reveal was received as a historic event. The physical reality of the Anaheim Convention Center presented a hard ceiling. While demand climbed year after year, physical space remained strictly limited by safety codes and floor space. Tickets that once took days to sell out began vanishing in minutes, then seconds, leaving a growing portion of the fan base locked outside the gates. To bridge this gap, Blizzard transformed the event from a regional gathering into a global broadcast product. The introduction of the virtual ticket allowed fans anywhere in the world to watch the opening ceremonies, developer panels, and closing performances live from their screens. What was once a local weekend in Southern California became a highly coordinated, multi-stage television production, beamed directly to living rooms across continents. For those who did manage to secure physical access, the experience on the ground grew increasingly stratified. Blizzard introduced premium options like the Portal Pass, granting early entry and exclusive lounge access to attendees willing to pay a premium to bypass the crushing lines. This digital expansion created a massive disparity between the physical crowd and the remote audience. While physical attendance reliably capped between 15,000 and 20,000 on-site fans during the annual runs from 2009 to 2019, the online viewership reached entirely different dimensions. By 2019, external estimates and company reports pointed to an unverified online audience of over 1 million viewers tracking the weekend's announcements. Think back to when this gathering first felt essential to you. Which opening ceremony or surprise reveal made you realise you had to be part of this community, whether standing in the Anaheim arena or watching the broadcast from home? This vast digital footprint changed the stakes for every panel and showcase. The developers on stage were not simply speaking to the passionate crowd in front of them, they were performing for a global, highly critical audience watching their every move in real time. When the Burning Crusade was first presented to the public, it established a recurring ritual that would shape the BlizzCon experience for the next decade. The reveal of a new expansion was no longer just a corporate product announcement. It was a monumental event for millions of virtual citizens. The addition of Blood Elves and Draenei, the shattered vistas of Outland, flying mounts, and the jewel crafting profession became the immediate currency of community debate. Players spent hours analysing how the new level 70 cap and fresh zones would alter their daily routines. This cycle of anticipation accelerated in August 2007. Inside the Anaheim Convention Center, the announcement of Wrath of the Lich King heightened the dramatic stakes. By focusing on the iconic villain Arthas, Blizzard introduced a darker Icebound world in Northrend that resonated deeply with fans of the classic strategy games. 2 years later, in August 2009, the studio transformed the formula with Cataclysm. Instead of simply adding new territories on the edges of the map, developers announced they would permanently shatter and rebuild the familiar continents of Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. The destructive return of Deathwing meant that the familiar landscapes players had inhabited for 5 years would be changed forever. At the centre of this evolving universe stood creative director Chris Metzen and the design team. Metzen acted as the primary interpreter of Azeroth, using his booming voice and physical presence on the main stage to turn raw game lore into shared history. Under his direction, the convention floor functioned as a multi-tiered journey of discovery. The first phase began in the dark of the main arena, where cinematic premieres and early playable demos generated immense excitement. Once the initial spectacle concluded, fans migrated to the developer panels and open Q&A sessions. On these smaller stages, designers explained the practical realities of the new systems, translating epic trailers into class balances and quest structures. Back home, online guilds and server communities worked together to process this flood of information. Alliance and Horde players debated the overhaul of talent trees, coordinated class rosters for upcoming raid tiers, and prepared for the structural shifts in their virtual societies. Long before the expansion files were ready to download, the announcements in Anaheim had already reshaped the social fabric of the game, cementing BlizzCon as the birthplace of shared virtual history. The revealing of the fourth expansion, Mists of Pandaria, in October 2011 marked a distinct shift in how the Anaheim crowd received new projects. When the cinematic trailer played, the introduction of the Pandaren and a peaceful, Asian-inspired continent met immediate skepticism. Many veteran players questioned the lighter tone after the world-shattering events of the previous expansion. On the convention floor, developers spent the weekend hosting panels to explain their creative choices. They argued that beneath the colourful art style lay a dark, faction-driven storyline and substantial systemic changes, including a complete overhaul of the talent system. Over the 2 days, direct gameplay demos helped turn that initial doubt into genuine curiosity, but the era of unquestioned fan approval had ended. 2 years later, the reveal of Warlords of Draenor sought to reclaim that gritty foundation. The announcement relied on heavy military imagery and an alternate history storyline that brought back legendary chieftains from the original strategy games. The crowd responded with massive enthusiasm to the cinematic trailer, eager for a return to the franchise's roots. Yet, this high-energy reception created a double-edged sword. As players queued at demo stations, they expected the ambitious garrison system and revamped character models to solve long-standing gameplay fatigue, setting up an intense level of expectation that would prove difficult to satisfy. By the time Legion dominated the main stage, Blizzard needed to recapture the community's trust. The reveal delivered an immediate wave of excitement, anchored by a cinematic featuring Sylvanas Windrunner and Varian Wrynn fighting side by side against the Burning Legion. The addition of class halls, legendary artifact weapons, and the new Demon Hunter class directly addressed the desire for grand fantasy. The halls of the convention centre buzzed with a level of optimism that had been missing for years, proving that a well-crafted cinematic and a massive narrative threat could still unite the fractured fanbase. That unity proved temporary. The announcement of Battle for Azeroth shifted the focus back to the core conflict between the Alliance and the Horde. While the theatrical trailer inspired passionate faction chants across the arena, the atmosphere in the developer panels grew more businesslike. Attendees lined up at the open microphones to voice concerns over the mechanics of Azerite armour and the pacing of island expeditions, looking past the cinematic spectacle. This erosion of patience culminated with the reveal of Shadowlands in 2019. The cinematic showing Sylvanas shattering the Helm of Domination split the community, highlighting a growing fatigue with the game's narrative direction. In the subsequent question and answer sessions, developers faced highly detailed, skeptical questions about covenants, soulbinds, and complex endgame progression. The relationship between the creators and the players had fundamentally changed. The annual ritual was no longer just a celebration of what was coming. It had become an annual performance review, where the developers had to defend their designs directly to a highly demanding audience. The quiet years of the early 2020s altered how Blizzard communicated. When the time arrived to reveal the Dragonflight expansion in April 2022, the massive stages in Anaheim sat empty. The announcement took place entirely online, away from the roaring, immediate feedback of the physical crowd that had defined the franchise's history. Yet the community's connection to Azeroth was already transforming through a different kind of nostalgia. The introduction of WoW Classic provided an official return to the game's original state, offering a permanent home for those seeking the slower, punishing systems of 2004. It was not simply a temporary event, it created a parallel world where veteran players could step back into their remembered past, while newer players encountered that legendary difficulty for the first time. When live gatherings resumed, the studio sought to anchor this multi-generational community with an unprecedented long-term plan. They unveiled the Worldsoul Saga, a massive 3-part narrative arc consisting of the War Within, Midnight, and the Last Titan. Rather than offering a single expansion, this long-range roadmap spoke directly to players who measured their lives in multi-year gaming cycles, providing a clear horizon for their virtual lives. By mapping out years of future content, World of Warcraft cemented its role as the emotional clock of the entire Blizzard community, ticking steadily across generations. Still, As players look at the survival and evolution of these legacy servers, one speculative question continues to dominate community forums. Will Blizzard finally announce Classic Plus? While World of Warcraft commanded the massive arenas of the convention, the world of Sanctuary offered an alternative for players drawn to gothic horror, endless loot and atmospheric repetition. Diablo represented Blizzard's darker, more experimental identity. The franchise's presence in Anaheim was characterized by a quiet, measured intensity, appealing directly to a fanbase that valued mechanical continuity and grim aesthetics over bright, high fantasy worlds. The return of Diablo 3 brought this classic franchise back to the physical stage after a long absence. Fans gathered to test the action role-playing game, experiencing the developers' attempt to balance classic gothic atmosphere with faster, modern cooperative play. Years later, this balance shifted toward pure preservation with Diablo 2 Resurrected. Unveiled as a faithful reconstruction of the legendary 2000 release, the project proved how archival preservation could become a modern product, updating graphics while leaving the original gameplay engine intact. By the time Diablo 4 took the stage, the creative direction returned to the franchise's traditional oppressive roots, focusing on bleak environments and visceral combat. Yet, this traditional focus existed alongside broader platform ambitions. Blizzard's development of Diablo Immortal directed the franchise toward mobile devices, aiming to reach entirely new audiences. This initiative contrasted with the community's desire for strict desktop continuity, establishing a quiet division on the showroom floor between classic PC purists and a studio exploring new platforms. On the convention floor, this classic PC heritage found its sanctuary in the dedicated retro areas and real-time strategy demonstration stations. Here, BlizzCon operated as much as an archive as a showroom, preserving the real-time strategy games that built the company's reputation. StarCraft remained at the absolute centre of this identity. While StarCraft 2 carried the torch of modern lightning-fast tactical play, the release of StarCraft Remastered represented a careful effort to preserve the 1998 original. Developers worked to update the graphics to modern high-definition standards while leaving the underlying gameplay engine untouched, keeping the delicate competitive balance exactly as players remembered it. But preserving a legacy is a fragile task, a reality that became painfully clear with Warcraft 3, Reforged. The announcement of the remaster promised to modernise the legendary 2002 strategy game with updated graphics, re-recorded voice work, and modern online integration. However, the final release struggled to meet those towering expectations, facing severe criticism from fans who felt the update stripped away features of the original and fell short of the cinematic cutscenes shown on the BlizzCon stage. This tension highlighted the difficult responsibility of touching classic games. Fans demanded more than modern compatibility, seeking to keep their memories protected. Through the classic arcade booths and legacy demo stations, the convention floor became a bridge where players could touch their gaming past, reminding the community of the design philosophy that started it all. The expansion of the convention floor soon reflected a fundamental shift in Blizzard's creative direction. In the early 2010s, the 3 franchise lineup gave way to a new wave of titles that broadened the convention's identity and brought entirely new demographics to Anaheim. The first major departure came with Hearthstone. Instead of the complex, high-commitment mechanics of traditional strategy games, this card game offered a fast, accessible take on Warcraft lore. At the convention, this translated to physical taverns, wooden tables, and casual gathering spaces that stood in stark contrast to the sterile competitive stages of old. Attendees lined up to test new card announcements and listen to developers explain how a physical board game concept could live digitally. Soon after, Heroes of the Storm took the stage, transforming the showroom floor into a massive crossover battleground. By throwing characters from StarCraft, Diablo and Warcraft into the same arena, the game served as a celebration of Blizzard's entire history. Attendees stood in long lines at playable demo stations, eager to see how legendary heroes from completely different worlds would interact in battle. But the most dramatic transformation occurred in 2014 with the reveal of Overwatch. The premiere of its bright, hopeful cinematic trailer introduced Blizzard's first entirely new universe in 17 years. This shift into character-driven, team-based shooters attracted a highly diverse audience. The convention halls filled with fans drawn to the colourful art style, character backstories and fast-paced competitive play, immediately altering the identity of the crowd. While these new directions did not always win immediate, unanimous approval from traditional PC purists, they undeniably transformed the culture of the event. BlizzCon was no longer just a reunion for legacy strategy tacticians. It had become a multi-genre festival, where card collectors, competitive shooter fans and cross-franchise enthusiasts walked side by side. The roar of the crowd in the tournament halls often rivaled the thunderous applause of the opening ceremonies. Competitive gaming was a central pillar in Anaheim, serving as physical proof of player mastery. StarCraft served as the bedrock of this competitive culture, turning high-speed strategy into a live spectacle where milliseconds dictated victory. For the upcoming 2026 event, organisers have planned a StarCraft Remastered Legacy match featuring the iconic rivalry of Boxar versus Nalre, connecting the foundations of early esports directly to the modern era. On adjacent stages, World of Warcraft took on highly technical formats. The Arena World Championship demanded precise class knowledge, rapid execution, and survival under extreme pressure. Nearby, the Mythic Dungeon International shifted the tournament focus to cooperative speed, where teams raced against the clock using highly calculated routes, massive pools, and flawless group coordination. As Blizzard's catalogue expanded, the competitive arenas grew to accommodate diverse formats. Hearthstone brought calculated card play and high-stakes deck theory, while Heroes of the Storm united familiar characters in fast-paced battlegrounds. With Overwatch, the convention floor transformed into a global stadium, drawing national teams to clash in the Overwatch World Cup. The planned 2026 schedule features these signature tournaments with the Arena World Championship, Mythic Dungeon International, Hearthstone Masters Tour, and Overwatch World Cup, all awaiting official confirmation. Alongside these traditional events, reports outline a new tournament, the Blizzard Classic Cup. This competitive exhibition is set to span 4 classic titles: Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft Remastered, StarCraft 2, and Warcraft 3, reforged, with a reported $100,000 prize pool. Casters Nick Tasteless Plot and Dan Artosis Stemkowski are slated as team captains, drafting their players in a competitive format that remains subject to official schedule verification. From the intense strategy of the classic battlefields to the frantic team fights of modern shooters, these tournaments display the pinnacle of player skill. The competitive stages do not merely announce the future, they present the execution of the present. For the players on stage and the fans packing the arenas, these championship moments prove that the true spirit of these online worlds lies in the pursuit of absolute mastery. Away from the glare of the tournament screens, the convention floor became a living physical translation of the virtual worlds millions inhabited. Guildmates, who had spent years as voices in a headset or text on a chat box, found themselves standing face to face, often recognising each other by character names rather than real ones. These encounters solidified digital bonds, turning virtual alliances into lifelong friendships over shared meals and late-night conversations. In this environment, players did not just play the games, they inhabited them. Cosplay became a remarkable display of craftsmanship and performance, where fans spent months constructing intricate armour plates, sewing complex fabrics, and styling elaborate wigs to bring legendary heroes to life. Walking the halls meant passing night elves, space marines, and ancient demons stepping directly into the physical world. On community night, this creativity took centre stage during the costume and talent contests, where the crowd cheered for fellow players showing off their dedication. Other rituals emerged to bridge the gap between pixel and reality. The March of the Murlocs wound through the convention centre, a sea of fans wearing inflatable suits and green hats mimicking the classic creature's iconic gurgling sound in a playful collective performance. Nearby, the Dark Moon Fair brought the game world's colourful carnival to life, serving as a hub for informal social systems. Here, attendees gathered for pin trading and merchandise hunts, using custom displays on lanyards to spark conversations with complete strangers. In the Blizzard Arcade and at unreleased game demo stations, unplanned interactions turned waiting in line into an event of its own, as players debated character builds and strategy with the people beside them. Around every corner, the traditional barriers between the creators and their audience dissolved. Creator meetups and impromptu developer fan encounters on the show floor allowed players to share their experiences directly with the designers who built their worlds. It was common to see a systems programmer sitting on a bench, intently talking with a guild leader about raid mechanics, or an artist signing a custom sketch on the back of a fan's notebook. These rituals gave faces and physical memory to relationships first formed in the digital dark. For a weekend, a simple convention badge became a symbol of belonging, proving that these virtual communities were real. If you walk these halls, which guild reunion or specific BlizzCon memory is the one you wish you could relive? When the final developer panels wrapped and the tournament stages fell quiet, the convention centre transformed. The tension of competition and the weight of upcoming updates gave way to a massive shared celebration. While the Offspring had established this musical tradition at the first gathering, the closing concert quickly grew into a legendary lineage of rock and pop spectacles. In 2009, Ozzy Osbourne brought heavy metal to the main stage, followed the next year by the comedic rock of Tenacious D. Year after year, the headliners expanded. The Foo Fighters shook the arena in 2011, Blink-182 brought high-energy punk in 2013, and Metallica delivered a masterclass in metal in 2014. Linkin Park took the stage in 2015, followed by the satirical genius of Weird Al Yankovic in 2016, and the stadium rock sounds of Muse in 2017. By 2018, the closing night evolved into a multi-stage festival, featuring the pop rock of Train, the violin-driven performances of Lindsey Sterling, and a DJ set by actor Christian Nairn. The following year expanded this festival format with the indie pop of Fitz and the Tantrums and the electronic beats of the Glitch Mob. Between these mainstream giants, Blizzard's own employee band, Elite Tour and Chieftain, regularly took the stage to perform heavy metal anthems dedicated to the lore of Azeroth and the Koprulu sector. This musical tradition did something game demos could not. It gathered World of Warcraft raiders, StarCraft tacticians and Diablo demon hunters into a single crowd. Standing shoulder to shoulder under the arena lights, the divisions between separate gaming communities dissolved. For a few hours, thousands of players sang the same lyrics, united not by faction or franchise, but by a shared appreciation for the community they had built together. On November 2nd, 2018, the atmosphere inside the Anaheim Convention Center was heavy with anticipation, particularly among the Diablo community. It had been 4 years since the release of the Reaper of Souls expansion, and fans of the dark fantasy role-playing series were desperate for a major announcement. Rumours of a new mainline title, perhaps the long-awaited Diablo 4, had circulated online for months. The Diablo franchise represented the bedrock of Blizzard's gritty classic PC heritage, a world built around complex hotkeys, high-end graphics cards, and hours spent clicking a mouse. The physical crowd in the arena had gathered with the firm expectation that their loyalty to the platform would be rewarded with a massive desktop adventure. Instead, the opening ceremony took an unexpected turn. Game designer Wyatt Cheng took the stage to unveil Diablo Immortal. As the cinematic trailer concluded and the logo appeared on the massive screens, it became clear that this was not a traditional PC game, but a free-to-play mobile title developed in partnership with Chinese internet company NetEase. The roaring cheers that typically define BlizzCon openings vanished. In their place sat a stunned, quiet confusion, followed by a wave of audible boos that rippled through the hall. For an audience that viewed BlizzCon as a sanctuary for dedicated desktop gaming, presenting a smartphone app as the headlining reveal felt like a profound disconnect. The tension between the developers on stage and the audience in the seats grew during the subsequent question and answer panels. The physical crowd at BlizzCon had travelled from across the globe, paying hundreds of dollars for tickets, flights and lodging to celebrate their shared gaming passion. To them, the focus on a mobile device felt like an abandonment of their core identity. This frustration crystallised when attendees lined up at the open microphones to confront the design team. One fan famously asked if the announcement was an out-of-season April Fool's joke. Another asked if there were any plans to ever bring the project to PC. When Chung confirmed that the game was designed strictly for mobile platforms, the room erupted in loud negative reactions. Attempting to manage the visible disappointment of the crowd, Chung asked the room, "Do you guys not have phones?" The line instantly became a viral meme, but the humour did not dilute the anger. The exchange was a moment of sharp corporate exposure. Blizzard was pursuing a massive, highly profitable global mobile market, a strategic choice that made complete sense on a financial spreadsheet. Yet the developers were presenting this new direction to a room filled with traditional PC enthusiasts, who viewed the smartphone as the antithesis of deep, immersive gaming. The exchange revealed a growing gap between Blizzard's platform strategy and the audience's definition of what BlizzCon stood for. The convention was a sacred gathering for a specific gaming culture, far removed from a standard corporate press conference. Offering a mobile game as the main highlight of the weekend shattered the belief that Blizzard and its core players were aligned, leaving a mark on the company's relationship with its community that would take years to heal. The financial reality of attending BlizzCon extended far beyond the ticket price. For the thousands of players making the annual pilgrimage to Anaheim, the ticket itself was the entry point of a larger calculation. Attendees balanced admission against flights, hotel stays in the busy resort district, meals, merchandise, and days of time away from home. Over the years, that base cost steadily climbed. In 2019, the general admission pass rose to a reported $229. When the convention returned in 2023, the base ticket hit a reported $299. For the scheduled 2026 event, the standard pass was set at $289.99, securing entry, but leaving fans to navigate total travel budgets that community estimates place between $2,500 and $5,000. These escalating costs faced a community whose trust in the institution of Activision Blizzard was severely tested by events away from the convention floor. In 2021, the state of California filed a civil lawsuit alleging systemic gender discrimination, sexual harassment, and a hostile workplace culture within the company. Blizzard contested many of these claims, eventually settling the case for $54 million in late 2023 without any court finding of wrongdoing by senior executives. Yet, the public fallout and employee protests deeply shook the connection between the company and its player base, contributing to the cancellation of planned physical events during that period. Further regulatory pressure emerged when the Securities and Exchange Commission investigated how the company tracked internal complaints. In 2023, Activision Blizzard agreed to a $35 million settlement to resolve allegations concerning its disclosure controls regarding workplace complaints from 2018 to 2021. This period of scrutiny directly overlapped with major structural changes. In early 2022, Microsoft announced a $70 billion acquisition of the company, an ownership transition that finalized in late 2023 and led to the departure of Chief Executive Bobby Kotick. In 2020, the spreading global pandemic halted the physical gathering, forcing Blizzard to cancel the live event for the first time in its history. To bridge this gap, the company launched BlizzConline in February 2021, a fully digital free-to-watch replacement. The broadcast successfully delivered major reveals, including the highly anticipated announcements of World of Warcraft, Burning Crusade Classic, and the faithful remaster Diablo 2 Resurrected. On paper, this online shift worked. The digital streams preserved the core corporate functions of the convention, broadcasting trailers, cinematic reveals, developer panels, and game updates directly to millions of homes worldwide. Yet the glowing screens could not replicate the sensory reality of the Anaheim halls. No stream could transmit the deafening collective roar of the crowd, the painstaking craftsmanship of costumes moving through the lobby, or the spontaneous joy of guildmates meeting in person for the first time. The quiet trading of collectible pins, the casual conversations in the demo lines, and the shared exhaustion of the closing concert were entirely lost. This digital era proved fragile. Blizzard cancelled the planned 2022 event, and after a brief return in 2023, the physical convention faced another gap with its cancellation in 2024. These disruptions occurred alongside massive corporate restructuring and ongoing workplace challenges, creating constant uncertainty around the gathering's future. The years of empty convention halls proved that while product information and marketing assets can easily move to the cloud, the loss of physical presence left a permanent void. On November 3rd, 2023, the doors of the Anaheim Convention Center opened for a physical reunion that many feared might never happen. After 4 years of empty halls, corporate crises, and digital-only experiments, the return of BlizzCon carried the weight of every accumulated expectation back into the arena. The atmosphere on the showroom floor was charged with a mixture of relief and intense scrutiny. Stepping onto the stage to anchor this moment was a familiar figure from the company's past. Chris Metzen made his official return, serving as an emotional bridge to Blizzard's earlier creative identity and instantly rallying a crowd hungry for a return to form. Beside him, Blizzard President Mike Wybara and Microsoft Gaming Chief Executive Officer Phil Spencer stood as symbols of a new corporate chapter, marking the event as both a nostalgic homecoming and an institutional reset. The opening ceremony sought to reward this loyalty with a barrage of announcements. The centerpiece was the reveal of the Worldsoul Saga, an ambitious multi-expansion roadmap for World of Warcraft consisting of the War Within, Midnight, and the Last Titan. This grand narrative arc spoke directly to a community accustomed to thinking in generational timelines. Offering a clear vision for the game's long-term future, the momentum continued across other franchises. Developers announced the first major expansion for Diablo 4, unveiled a new hero heading to the Overwatch roster, and shared updates for Hearthstone and the newly launched mobile title, Warcraft Rumble. To close out the weekend, South Korean pop group LE Seraphim took the stage, bringing a high-energy modern festival style to the closing ceremony. Their appearance reflected a deliberate push to connect with a broader, younger global pop culture audience. For the thousands of fans packed into the Anaheim halls, the weekend felt like a revival. The physical space was once again filled with the familiar sights of elaborate cosplay and the simple joy of real-world guild reunions. Yet, beneath the immediate excitement lay a more complicated reality. The previous years of corporate turbulence and workplace controversies had left lasting scars on the relationship between Blizzard and its players. While a well-crafted opening ceremony could easily ignite the old passion, it raised a lingering question. Could a weekend of spectacular announcements and shared nostalgia truly heal the underlying divisions? Or was a powerful ceremony just a temporary distraction from unresolved doubts? On September 12 and 13, 2026, the Anaheim Convention Center hosts the return of Blizzard's signature showcase. Standard passes sold out on Tixer at $289.99, forcing thousands to watch from home. Fortunately, official coverage remains free across Blizzard's website, Twitch and YouTube, splitting the massive virtual crowd between the central main stage broadcast and dedicated franchise streams. The scheduled program features a high-stakes lineup, the opening ceremony, developer panels, and hands-on demonstrations. Attendees expect updates across World of Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, and Hearthstone, along with Diablo Immortal programming. On the floor, classic rituals return. Community Night on September 12 boasts a top prize of $4,000 for cosplay, running alongside the March of the Murlocs and the Dark Moon Fair, which features an after-hours option priced at $89.99. Pop culture crossovers fill the weekend, with appearances by T-Pain, Simu Liu, deadmau5, and a halftime show by YOASOBI. To close the weekend on September 13, South Korean pop sensation LE Seraphim returns to headline the main stage. Competitive play also takes centre stage. Alongside the Arena World Championship, the Mythic Dungeon International and the Overwatch World Cup, the newly minted Blizzard Classic Cup features a prize pool of $100,000 spanning legacy titles like Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft Remastered, StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, reforged with legendary commentators Tasteless and Artosis drafting the rosters. As we look toward this massive broadcast and reunion, it serves as a critical test of Blizzard's ability to generate anticipation. What do you expect Blizzard to announce, and if you could walk into the convention center tomorrow, which part of the gathering would you return to first? For more than 20 years, BlizzCon has brought Blizzard fans together to celebrate the worlds they love. On September 12 and 13, the doors open again, and when that countdown reaches zero, anything can happen. Drop a like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you think Blizzard will announce at BlizzCon 2026. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into gaming history. For years, a single speculative concept has dominated the World of Warcraft community: Classic Plus. Rather than simply progressing players through old expansions, this envisioned mode promises entirely new content built directly within the style, difficulty and framework of the original 2004 game. Driven by private server experiments, fan requests and the discovery of unused zones and unfinished map files, the desire for an alternate timeline has only intensified. While WoW Classic and temporary experiments like the Season of Discovery proved that Blizzard is willing to tweak the retro experience, they remain distinct from a permanent expanded legacy world. Developers have investigated internal prototypes under code names like Camelot, but official plans, credible reporting and data mining offer no confirmation. As of August 23rd, 2026, Blizzard has made no official announcement, leaving the concept firmly in the realm of community rumour and theory. Yet, as veteran players and newcomers alike look toward the stages in Anaheim, the anticipation remains at an all-time high. Will Blizzard finally announce Classic Plus? For more than 20 years, BlizzCon has brought Blizzard fans together to celebrate the worlds they love. On September 12th and 13th, the doors open again, and when that countdown reaches 0, anything can happen. Drop a like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you think Blizzard will announce at BlizzCon 2026. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into gaming history. The question isn't whether BlizzCon can perfectly recreate its golden era, it's whether a community fractured by years of corporate upheaval can still find its way back to the shared magic of the physical arena. In an industry increasingly moving to the cloud, this stage remains the ultimate test of corporate redemption and fan devotion. Ultimately, the future of these legendary worlds belongs not to the boardrooms, but to the players.